not my native language. This is your native language. You should know this shit.
Don't trust the writer with anything.
I'm just a foreigner.
Hey, I'm probably gonna mess it up anyways. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Face the Truth. I'm really excited to have Iris back on the show for the second time. She's an amazing artist. Had a really good time hanging out with her a little bit last year at Lightbox in Pasadena, and she's just been doing some awesome work. And I found out she illustrated a book for one of my all-time favorite movies of all time, from when I was a kid, The Dark Crystal. A huge inspiration for me artistically, and just I used to have nightmares, but it didn't matter. I watched it again. It didn't matter. It was the best movie ever. French, please. The best. Okay. Anyways, I'm super pumped for her because I know that it's been something that she's been excited about forever. And we talked about it, I think, last time on the podcast as well. So this is just really cool how she's come full circle with this. So I'm really excited to introduce the one and only Iris Compiet.
Thank you so much, Jason.
And do you see how I avoided the book title that time? But the book, what was it again? The Dark Crystal.
Bestiary.
Let's keep it a bestiary, yeah.
Some bestiary. But Adam, what's your part in this as a subcontracted introduction here?
I'm Adam Cesare. I am like Jason, grew up loving the Dark Crystal, and kind of like Jason, it gave me nightmares, and so I kind of grew up. I grew up to be a horror writer.
Yeah.
So I grew up to be a horror writer. I mainly write novels and novellas and comic books that are spooky or scary in nature. But I had been working with Boom Studios that was doing the tie-in comics for Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, the television show, and I lobbied hard to get that job because I love the Dark Crystal so much, and I just kind of was lucky enough that they liked my work, and the Jim Henson company liked my work, and when it came time for we need someone to write up all these creatures and critters, little bios and little biological facts about them.
So cool.
That went to me, and they asked if I wanted to do it, and I haven't responded to an email so quickly ever. So yeah. So I wrote the words, and then Iris did the most amazing work a human being's ever done, drawing and painting and sketching these creatures. It's truly incredible.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've seen a few of them. It's just I couldn't think of a more perfect marriage between an artist and this. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, and I know it's something that you've been kind of personally dreaming about forever, something like this. So this is, how has this been, this opportunity? I mean, how many illustrations did you do? Because it seemed like that's all. Holy crap!
That's the stack of sketches and artwork that I've done for this particular project. So this was done in 4 months, I think.
Whoa!
So just nonstop,
this is nonstop.
That's great.
Work.
That's
and
awesome.
These are all full. There's 4 big ass sketchbooks, and then 2 smaller ones, and then a stack of papers, and I think I handed in over 1,000 sketches.
That's unbelievable.
Just to be approved, what are you looking for? Because the approach to this book was so very different than any other illustrated book, which is basically they tell you what scene you have to illustrate. And with a bestiary such as this, I felt I had to crawl into Thra, into this world, and immerse myself into it. But not just that, keep in mind what's been done before. So all the comics, everything, I went through everything. I've seen the movie countless times already, and I just kept watching. Same with the series. I was just watching on repeat and hitting pause button and sketching and doing that, because I wanted to almost approach this as still like a life drawing in a zoo. You go to a zoo and you draw from life, and that's what I was doing. I was drawing the creatures from life as they were acting. And that resulted in that. But I needed to understand how they moved and how they, how the essence of Gelfling to keep it in line with the. Yeah, I needed to understand how they moved, and I mean, there's some big shoes to fill, because Brian Froud, who basically designed the whole world of Thra, and it was actually Brian who asked me to do this, and that was like, what? Me?
That's so cool.
I can't do this.
So essentially, the book is sort of like a naturist were to sit there and go to the Galapagos, and draw the turtles and everything. So that's kind of how you're approaching the whole project.
And I think Adam did as well. I mean, I read Adam's text, and it felt so much like that. And I remember that we went back and forth on certain creatures that we were both unsure of, and we just bounced ideas off each other, and it was very organic almost, and it was so much fun to do it that way. It was much more collaborative.
Fun,
yeah. It was very similar to, but that's a great way of putting it. Like if you went to the Galapagos, where it's like, it's almost like you have all these texts to work from. You have the movies and the television show, and because we have creatures in here that were from the tie-in comics, that were from the novels, so they never got puppets. Like they never got like there's not a whole lot of reference. And Iris and I were in email chains going back and forth where, we had one production image from Henson, and it was blurry, and it was like a thumbnail size. He had to blow it up, and it's like, well, what do you think this looks like, and what do you think this could be? What do you? And then like I'm sure our editor was ready to kill us because we were just like going back and forth on that kind of stuff. And then you add the layer of like, well, there's a certain number of canonical things that have to be in there, and then it's a 40-year franchise, so there's been comic books, and there's been adaptations, and there's been novels, and there's been materials even that Froud himself worked on, like the World of Dark Crystal, that because of the Netflix show became less canonical than others, and it's really becomes a question of like, let's try to honor all of it, at least from my perspective, as the words, because I'm having to put like concrete words that I know the Dark Crystal Reddit is going to go over and over and like pick apart. Yeah. Where it's like I'm putting my name on it, so I don't want it to seem like I'm an amateur, but I also want to. There is a certain amount of conflict, and there's a certain amount of contradiction in some of what's been produced, and I wanted to kind of thread that line to as perfectly as possible, so that it seemed believable, and so that it seemed like you were opening it up and. Okay, this is a book that if Thra had books like this would exist in Thra, and it would feel like Iris went out and was Gelfling Iris and was drawing and painting.
I'm more of Skeksis, I think.
Skeksis Iris, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
or Augra's sister, I would like that.
Oh, perfect.
So the was the writing first for the most part, or was it kind of the same time? Because I'm just wondering, like. As an artist, I mean, of course, Iris is already very familiar with the characters, a lot of them, most of them probably before you guys did this. But how did you guys set it up for as far as the direction? I guess like let's say one of the characters did you get like notes about like final notes from him, and then just kind of start sketching from that, or was it? Kind of
I received a first draft, a rough draft of your manuscript in December, I think, just before Christmas. And I remember I had I was meeting up with Brian and Wendy in Dartmoor 2 weeks into January, so I had 2 or 3 weeks to work on whatever I could produce to show them. So there was nothing yet. And I went with what Adam wrote, and just I focused mainly on the creatures that weren't as well known. first, because we know the Skeksis, we know Orgra. That's fine. That's all there. But the Seedles, that's very unknown, or a little small amount of people know what they are. And they're three-eyed. They had really weird names in the beginning. There were a couple that had three-legged, stalky thingies.
Some of them didn't even have names. They were some like temporary names, because it was the names that the Jim Henson Company, when they were taking like production photos of them, I guess someone just was like, okay, you have to name this. And it was the most literal names for the puppets possible. It was like three-eyed mouth thing. And like, we're not going to use that. We're not going to use that name, but that's what Iris had to work with.
So then how did you come up with names for those characters then? To be authentic, because like what you said, that, whenever you're a part of something like this that's borderline cult-like following, and you don't get something right, you're going to get a lot of pissed off fans, right? So I mean, that must be nerve-wracking when you're actually coming up with new names and that sort of a thing.
I think there was maybe only 2 or 3 things that I actually like were my names, like, that I got to do. And then because we were working so closely with, like, the email loops were all not only our editors at Inside Edition, but the Jim Henson Company themselves, and then a little bit later the showrunners on the TV show. So it was a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and Jim Henson, I gladly, because I when I'm writing, a book, a fiction book, like I struggle with naming like human characters like Jim and Sally, like stuff like that. So I didn't want to be naming Dark Crystal names. Like, there maybe 2 or 3 I got to have what their names were, but like for the most part, that there one day a spreadsheet just came from the Jim Henson Company where they were like, okay, we thought about this, and the ones that don't have names, here are our names. But I think there were maybe a couple of those that either I had named in the draft, or I was like, are you sure about this one? Like, maybe it should be like, but I think
Gobbler.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, the Gobblers.
No Moth Gobblers. He didn't make the final cut, but
yeah, that's interesting. It sounds like such a fun project for both of you. I mean, it's so. I mean, I just get excited. The coolest thing about the Dark Crystal, and I think I can just relate with Iris on this, is ever since, I mean, I've been an artist my whole life, and ever since I saw the Dark Crystal, it inspired me to draw. It's one of those movies that just feels like a living illustration. Like, it's so beautiful. You forget almost immediately that you're watching puppets, and so that must have been just exciting to be able to just put that pen to paper, or get out the watercolors and everything. Were you just like on a crazy high the entire time you're doing it? Because I get excited about little jobs sometimes. No, was it stressful? You were freaking out a little?
At the beginning, it was very stressful, because at the beginning I was on this all-time high. A year before I actually signed the contract, I was contacted, and do you want to do this? And then you hear nothing for months and months and months, and you're like, oh man, that was the dream job, it's not going to happen. And then all of a sudden you get that dream job, and it's like, oh shit, I have it, and you have to do this. And then it sinks in that you are basically being put forward by the person who pretty much is responsible for you not having a steady paying day job. Because Brian and Alan have, they are definitely the culprits behind my career choice. And then it's all of a sudden I have to fill those shoes, and that's a pretty epic big thing to work on. And I know, because I'm a fan of Dark Crystal, and there's people that know so much of this, and I'm like, oh shit, they're gonna find out that I made a mistake, or if I do this wrong, they're gonna lynch me. And you're wanting to fill those shoes and to look like Brian's work, and then all of a sudden it just cripples you. And I had to find that switch that, like, no, they asked me to do this, so there's a reason they asked me, they want my work, they want my voice, and I work in a very, very similar fashion as Brian does, and we've talked about this in January, and it was so liberating to talk to him about it, because I've never really had somebody who understood the way I work, which is so intuitive. And so that's all these sketches. I don't see that as doing too much. That's just my way of getting in character, getting in that world, getting lost in that world. And it was so important to not lose my own voice in this, and just to do my own thing and experiment and be loose with it, because it's so easy to just think it needs to look like Brian's work. It needs to look like Brian. And that's the moment where it all goes to hell, because I'm not Brian.
Exactly. Yeah.
I need to bring my own stuff, and I wanted to add, like, I wanted to pay homage to what's already been done. Like Adam said as well, you want to pay homage to this, like, this world that so many people are, it's so dear to so many, and everybody you talk to has a special story to tell about the Dark Crystal. And you want to pay homage to that world that Jim Henson created and that Brian created, and add to it, because we were asked to add to it. We designed new creatures. There are creatures in there that have never been seen. They're in nothing. So me and Adam, we did that. We designed those creatures. Those are our contributions to Thra. And it's insane to think about that, because it's going to live forever.
Yeah.
Long live Thra.
Now that's amazing. And this is, I mean, I'm wondering as well, like how you just said, you've got to be, you got to have a little bit of self-confidence in this, but it can be really difficult. There's a lot of pressure that comes along with it. But I was wondering, when you were talking about that, was that why they only ended up like when I first heard you doing this project, I was like, I couldn't believe that you were the only artist.
Yeah.
Because like when you first, I saw a post about it, and I think you did say you did over 1,000 drawings and sketches, and I'm like, wait a minute, because I've got a lot of art of books and different things like that, and there's always like tons of artists. It's not just one artist that did it. So what was the thinking behind that? Was it because they wanted a consistency? I mean, obviously you're bringing your own style, but it's you know enough about it that you're keeping it in the same universe. So it's going to feel very similar. But was it because they didn't want to have too many different things aesthetically in there? Because it seems like so much for one artist.
I really don't know if that's the case. I'm happy that they chose just to go with the one.
It's cool. It's pretty cool. It's crazy at the same time.
Yeah. I know there's people who really wanted more work of Brian, like more Thra and Dark Crystal of Brian, which I agree. Like, can never be enough Brian Thra artwork in the world. But remember, he had just worked on Dark Crystal Age of Resistance for a couple of years on end. Yeah. I think he needed a break from Thra for just a moment.
And for the people who want that, there's the Inside Editions put out the behind the scenes book of the show, which has all of his sketches in it. So if you want his work, and his work has changed a lot since the early 1980s, like his work has changed substantially. So I think whether or not it was a like chicken or the egg, whether or not it was like a happy accident to just be like, well, how many illustrators do we need? And then you smash cut to that giant stack of work, and it's like, we just need Iris. Like, whether or not that was intentional, like that is that's one of the great strengths of the book, as I see it, is that this feels like it's one person.
Yeah, that's
notebook. This feels like consistency, and like Jason had said, the great thing, and I love the TV show, and the TV show feels to me a lot more collaborative. It feels like there's a lot more voices in it, and I acknowledge that, it says right in the title, it's Jim Henson's Dark Crystal. I acknowledge Jim Henson's contribution. I acknowledge Frank Oz's contribution to the original film. He's the director, but I think ownership of the look and the feel of Dark Crystal for that movie, at least the original film, is like you said, it's like a Brian Froud illustration brought to life. And then to the beauty and the greatness of this book, which I didn't do anything like on that end, so I can't take credit, or I can't say like, self-serving, but I think it's amazing that it's all Iris, and it's Iris's work reflecting on Froud's work, reflecting on decades of Froud's work, and it becomes this new beautiful thing that no one is going to, they feel of a piece, they feel like they fit, but no one's going to look at Iris's version of a mystic and confuse it with one of the original Froud sketches from the original movie. It's just so clearly her work, and I don't know. It's just so it's a good credit to Henson and Inside Editions that they chose her, and that they because she's and that Froud chose her because it's clearly the person for the job. Like
that's amazing. That's like, awesome. That's so it is such an amazing, that's one of the best things about being an artist in working professionally in industry, when those kind of jobs come along, where you're just like, I can't believe this one is real, and this one is epic. This one is epic. This is this is a little bit, I mean, it's, first of all, I've seen a few of the pieces, and they're beautiful. You did it. I think you totally captured the feeling, and that's the essence. It's like, that's the hard part, I think, is, but they knew with you that part was already taken care of, because you already understood the feeling of these characters in this world. And so, like I said before, perfect marriage. I mean, it's like, it's pretty awesome, man. It's now, how long you said that you had, like, how it was, like 4 months?
I had about 4 months to really work on the artwork, and then a month and a half, I think, for finalizing things. So I got the first manuscript at end of December. Then second or third week, I went to Brian and Wendy, and I think I filled one of these big sketchbooks by then, just to show them, because I wanted to know first-hand base if I got the feeling of Thra right. And just Wendy and Brian said, "You've got it. This is you've got it." And then Brian came out with his
and meanwhile they're like actually, when they're on the phone with you, they're like, bring me another drink. She's got this. You go have fun drawing, okay?
Yeah, that's pretty much what Brian said as well, because he said he admitted, like, I can't do that in that time, and I'm not even sure if I will be able to do that ever again in that time, because it's been crazy, and knowing that I actually had another book on the side working on another children's book at the same time, so it was just, and some magic cards. So I was like,
I did not know that. Wow.
Wow. I made some mistakes there. I made some decisions that weren't really well thought out, but I think I ran on just that, like, I ran on essence of Gelfling. I think it gave me life. This is one of those projects you just don't say no to, and when the hero of your childhood art hero just tells you that this is perfect for you, that you are the only one they could think of to do this, that was this, like, I love that. I hope that people like the book and love the book, but to be honest, having that okay by Brian and Wendy, that was all I needed.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. Everything. And I know the Hensons are very very happy with what we've pulled off. Like, we've been told various times, I believe, that they were very happy. And That's all you wanna achieve, that the people who are at the cradle of this, who have been at the cradle of this, are happy.
Yeah, for sure. Now, as far as the technical part of this, you did mostly like graphite and then watercolor work? Is that mostly what it was?
It's all traditional, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
That's awesome.
It's,
you didn't need like a month just to scan it all in?
Well, I had a system, so
Oh.
I got up really early, and in the evenings when I wasn't really paying much attention anymore, like I was pooped, I would just scan a couple of hours, and that was automatic pilot.
Crazy.
I had a series on, which was 9 out of 10 times it was Age of Resistance, because I needed to do a reference. So it was sketching, scanning, sketching, scanning. It was just a system. And but yeah, the cleaning of sketches was difficult, and we were still finding the format of this book, because everybody was just still searching for what this book should be like. It was it's definitely something they've not done in such a way before, with all these sketches and like it's a notebook. And I had sent them my Fairies of the Fault Lines book, and they were like, yeah, that's what we want. That's exactly what we want. And so that was a really good coincidence.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's a great book as well.
Thank you.
So when it comes to like coming up with new characters for this, was it like, how much of it was like looking at the already existing characters? And I mean, I'm sure you had to kind of do that in a little bit just to kind of get that kind of aesthetic again. But like, was it pretty free for you to be able to just take your mind somewhere and just imagine what this new creature could be like? But I guess my question is, how did you as an artist pull it together so that it still feels like that same, like it belongs in that world? Because I can imagine that could be a hard thing, because you could do something kind of fantasy like, but it just doesn't fit right in this world.
Yeah. Well, Adam had already written most of the descriptions, so part of the work was already done. The voice was there, and
okay.
I mean, Adam sowed the seed for that one.
Yeah. And it's also it was more of a process maybe on some of them than Iris is admitting, and because she was part of the process, because there were a couple animals that we needed them because they were name checked in either the series or in Extra Matter, but they weren't they didn't have an image, so we knew it was like, we know this is a predator because we know that it preys on this established character that looks like this. This established animal that looks like this. So that's almost where like the biology came in, of like, we have to guess what this looks like. And then Iris would draw sketches. I'm thinking especially of like we had like a bird of prey. That actually went through you gave us a few different, like, okay, it could be like this, and the bill could be like this. And then that became a question of, okay, well, not only does it have to fit Thra, it has to fit like kind of basic biology of like, what are these features of this animal telling us that it does. So there were moments like that where we really did have a real back and forth collaboration of like from sketch to final painting. And I think those are actually some of the coolest pieces in the book, and what fans are going to enjoy the most, because it's things that have been referenced or things that have been talked about, and we're like, okay, well, here's what it looks like.
Those are really fun to create. And like Adam says, you're you can get tempted to just add wonderful stuff to an animal, like wildly colored feathers, or outrageous things and horns and stuff. But if it doesn't have a function, it doesn't belong to Thra. Every creature in Thra has its function. Everything has a reason. And I remember Brian telling me that every single swirl or line in every mystic's face has a function. Nothing is because it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Everything is for a reason. So with that in mind, we did this. Like, it had to be there for a reason. It had to be make sense.
Yeah.
And there's also 2 never before seen mystics in the book, which is a really big thing. And from the first moment on, I was like, you can't let me do this, because every single mystic and important creature has been created by Brian, and it would feel wrong for me to do that. This is his thing. And Brian gave me some rough sketches for those 2 mystics, and I elaborated on those. So it was also collaborating with Brian for these mystics. And I had sent Adam's bio for those mystics, and Brian worked with those as well. So it was really, at one point we were just working together, the 3 of us, which is super cool.
And what's cool is I never knew that. So I never knew.
Now you know.
That makes me like a little, emotional, because that's just so cool. That's really, really just amazing. And all 3 of us were working on these.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was very important that those mystics were, in essence, or in the beginning, designed by Brian. I felt that was not my role or my part. I, set aside that ego, and know when you're the master needs to step in.
But they were just sketches. You are filling in in the final form. So it's really like, don't sell yourself short, because you are you're helping create these things. It's incredible. Yeah.
It was a wonderful collaboration, and it just felt right to do it like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's really, it just seems like such a daunting and exciting project. That must have been, was it emotional draining for you working on this? I mean, just like, I would just imagine it's so much work and so much time, and you care so much about it. You're putting so much into it. That was it. I mean, even like when you were done, were you just kind of like, what now?
Yeah.
I'm done.
I'm honestly, definitely. I still can't believe it's true. So I haven't got the books yet. So I'm like, yeah, it's not true. I want that book in my hands. But luckily I have all the originals, and people do want to buy them, but I don't want to get rid of them. So I'm like, no, I can't sell those. Because they're more than just drawings. This is my 7-year-old me dream here. But yeah, it has been quite a roller coaster, and I had to oftentimes just pull myself together, and because the fear of people not liking what you do. I mean, this is a big thing. And then there's always this fear in the back of your mind, like, they're gonna not like this. They want Brian. They don't want me. I'm not good enough. All that jazz is repeating in the back of your mind because you're tired. And you're working in this vacuum. I mean, I didn't even know COVID was going on.
Yeah.
I emerged out of my art cave, and it was like, huh? The world stopped. What happened?
I definitely can relate to that. It doesn't feel much different for us artists who are always alone in our studios anyways, but just wait till you have kids, then it's a little bit different. I can tell you that. So how many of the drawings and like sketches and paintings ended up in the final?
I think about 200.
Wow. So what are you going to do with the rest?
Have 3 sequels, yeah.
Well, you've got enough for it. I mean, man, I want to see all of them.
Yeah. I can't do anything with
I was
them.
imagining this book was gonna be like just like the biggest book I've ever seen in my life.
They had trouble like deciding which ones to take and which not. But basically, all these sketches. I mean, there's really rough sketches in there as well. It's not all very elaborate and all everything. It's just what I said. It's like sitting down in a zoo or in a crowded area and just sketching people and things that you see going on. There's stuff you focus on and then really have detailed sketches, and then there's these scribbles in the margins that are enough information for you as an artist, but not enough information for the people watching it, of looking at it. So yeah, there's so I could probably show some of it, like if I don't fuck this up. I shouldn't show the things we can't show, actually. Oh, there's things like this.
Beautiful. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, were there pieces that you had done that were just like your baby, like you just loved it, and that one didn't get in the book? Was there anything like that happened?
Yeah, sure.
So I'm sure you did like that many. I'm like, man, I can't believe you said 200. I'm like, oh, that's like, it feels like so many deaths to me. Like,
oh, they're not dead to me. It's like,
I know, but I'm just saying, like when you first said how many you worked on, I'm like, oh my gosh, this book is gonna be just like the biggest book ever. Like, and I'm thinking thousands of, but that's a lot cut out. So I mean, is there talk about doing something else with the rest of the art eventually, or?
Not that I know of.
We'll wait and see. I think this book's gonna do really well.
I mean,
we're gonna try.
There's more movies around that there's more things that I would love to, and I think Adam would love to write for as well, and we're a dream team. So
yeah, man, what an awesome, like, this is so awesome. The even the collaboration, like with you, Adam, like, what was it like for you when to get this job as well, just to like, I get to write. I mean, you were already writing for comics for Dark Crystal.
Yeah, I'd written a few kind of tie-in comics, which is a 4-issue like arc. It's like it's actually coming out the week after the Bestiary, or Bestiary. So I've got like 2 Dark Crystal books to promote, but it's the graphic novel is it's a tie-in to the show. It's about Hup, and he's like this little podling character, but it's a comedy. I'm like a wise ass guy who like I'm putting like little references to like horror movies and stuff like that in my comic. And then they're like, oh, would you like to do the very serious, very canonical, Bestiary? And I'm like, you sure you have the right Adam? But I was, I was like, I'm not going to say no. And I took it very seriously. And it's, there is, as Iris was saying a while ago, the idea of like, Brian Froud had form and function to all of these creatures, and not only a biological form and function, but like if you read the original, if you read even the original pitch sheet for Dark Crystal, and if you read some of Henson's thinking and the conversations they were having, this stuff is metaphysical. Like this is about like sacred geometry and like and New Age ideas and Christology and all this different. These ideas that they were thinking about. It was the late 70s. All these things that they were thinking about when they were creating this. So it's not only like it's like if you went to the Galapagos, but also like in order to see the creatures you had to be on peyote, kind of like that was like part of like that was
they're
part
there.
Of,
trust me.
Exactly. That was part of the thinking of like, well, how do you literalize something? How do you write a science textbook about a world where there's not science? There is only magic. Like even the biology is magic. Like, so that was a big challenge, and just getting in that same headspace. And, like Iris had said about the idea of finding what this book was going to be and what it was going to even look like. Like I came in with some, I'm glad the editor said no, but I came in with some pretty wild ideas of like, well, if you really like, they were like, well, we want it to be an in-universe book. And I'm like, okay, well, in-universe, but you want it to include all the creatures. That's that's thousands of years of Thra history. And some of these creatures are dead, and then some of them are alive, and some of them are extinct. So how would you even go about having it be in universe? So I had like these ideas about like, well, parts could be written by different characters, and if this book could have been added to over thousands of years, and should it be in the first person? Because is it a naturalist? Is it like Gelfling Charles Darwin like writing this book? And they were like, whoa. We didn't mean that in universe, Adam. Slow down. Like, but I was ready to go for it. I was ready to like do the weirdest possible thing that anyone's ever put as like a tie-in book that's going to be in Barnes and Noble's end tables, like kind of thing. So I was thinking a lot. I thought not only about the canon, but about the ideas behind the original movie. Like the original movie it's not only very thematically dense, but it's like metaphysically dense, and it's about a lot of different ideas. Like, so I wanted this to reflect that, even if it's going to be very, to a certain extent, certainly straightforward with some of the prose. I wanted those ideas to seep in, and I didn't want there to be a passage or a page that felt like this doesn't fit. Which I'm sure is almost the exact process that Iris had of like, this has to fit. I want this to fit. So even just down to the language used, even though, the language had to be fairly straightforward, you want everyone to be able to enjoy it, and you don't want it to sound too like pretentious or crazy. But I wanted, linguistically, I wanted there to be no Gelfling. These wouldn't be words Gelfling wouldn't say. Like, if that made sense, or like that Augur wouldn't say when she was speaking to Gelfling. Yes, there's a lot of things to keep in mind, and a lot of pressure, as Iris said.
It's so funny. There's a lady that used to live in my apartment building like years ago, and she always reminded me so much of Augur. Like so the way she waddled around, and the fact that she had one eye. No, just kidding. But like it was just always funny because the way she talked and everything, it just always brought me to that character. And her husband's name was Glenn, and she'd walk around going, Gleno, and I just imagine her with a cigar, and I just like, it's just funny how like these characters they appear. You create your own internal universes, with these characters. And like when I was a kid, like this movie was so important to me. I just loved it. Like I said, I wasn't afraid like having bad dreams, but I remember like just there's a lot of creepiness that it's so unnerving. It's just very unnerving. Like the friend, it would give me chills. Like what's wrong with you? Get away, you creep. And like, but I couldn't stop watching it, and like I remember thinking when I was a kid too, like, is this like, I remember because I know that Jim Henson, Frank Oz and George Lucas, there's a lot of different people that were influenced and worked together. And I always kind of had this thought of, what if this planet is in the same universe as Star Wars? It's just a different planet that they don't know about. That, you know what I mean? And so like when I would watch the movie, I would imagine like, what would Luke do if he showed up here? And like I just remember just wanting to have those toys to play with, like with my Star Wars toys, like having the little dark crystal toys. But yeah, it's been one of those movies that, I mean, when I was a kid, there wasn't very many options for great movies. There was like, you could list them, like the Dark Crystal, obviously, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Jaws, Goonies. But now there's just like millions of shows with crazy special effects and all kinds of creatures and stuff. But I think what hit home so hard with this was that it was all like hand done, and it just felt for some reason, it's like original Star Wars. Like there was no real digital work really. So that kind of hands-on approach gave it like this organic, like almost reality that just I think that's part of what was creepy about it too. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like it just had like these things are real. Like this is a real creature. Yeah. And I remember when I was in art school, I I couldn't believe it. I brought up the Dark Crystal in one of my drawing classes, and granted, I was 26 when I decided to take some classes in art school. But all these like kids right out of high school that are in my classes, 18 years, none of them knew what Dark Crystal was. And it was like so much, like it was blasphemy, you know, it was just, and so I introduced this movie to like all these, you know, new kids. And it was just funny, like hearing from them like, oh my gosh, this thing's amazing. And I'm like, how could you not have heard of this before? Yeah. Like you are an artist, right? You know, it's kind of like a sacred movie in a way. So I think that's so awesome. Such an amazing experience for you guys to be able to work on this. Yeah, I can't wait to see this thing.
Me neither.
Yeah, me neither. Yeah, we're both waiting by our mailboxes. And it is the idea of, it is, to me, I hold it up as like a Star Wars or an Indiana Jones, because it was just on rotation as on VHS. Like, but then you get out in the wider world, and it's amazing. There can be a Netflix show. It's amazing. There can be all this stuff. There can be all these books and comics and things like that. And it's one of the few properties that still has the ability to kind of be niche and fly under the radar a little bit, which is part of, frankly, what I love about it. Because I think even Labyrinth has much more, because Labyrinth has David Bowie people to kind of latch on to. And I think like the Dark Crystal is a certain handshake movie, not to like gatekeep or not to keep people out. I think everyone should see it. But I think the idea of it is like, we all know it so well.
It has a kind of darkness that not everybody likes, perhaps. It is a very like there's beauty, but there's so much darkness in it as well. And not everybody really enjoys that. I still think that's one of the the best things you can do.
Well, it's not funny. It takes itself seriously.
Yeah.
You know, like the Labyrinth is different in that way.
There are moments that are funny. I mean, even in Age of the Resistance. I mean, can we talk about puddling feet? Like puddling feet and puddling buttocks. I mean,
that whole scene is great. It's hysterical. And it's amazing. It fits in Dark Crystal. That's what's amazing about the show. That's what was amazing about the show. It felt. It took us twice as long to watch the show as it took most people, because I kept pausing it and yelling into the other room with my wife. And I was like, can you believe they did this? I was like, could you believe Netflix paid for the, like, it must have been one of the most expensive shows they've ever made. And I just couldn't believe that handmade. They did 10 movies. They did 10 hours of the Dark Crystal. And I just couldn't believe it. I think it's a real gift. And I think the quality of it is unbelievable. But the fact that they took this little handshake movie and they made 10 hours of television about it was amazing. And it fits, and the fact that it fits and it works is like a minor miracle, I think.
I think it fits because it has the same passion that the first the original movie has. There's a passion there for quality, for puppetry, for the art of puppetry, and I think that's also. Maybe also the strength of our book is that we've worked with this with a mad passion. I wouldn't be able to do this if I didn't have that passion for the project. And I think, Adam, you might agree with this. You have to have that love and passion for that world of Thra, and to add to it, and to introduce even more people to this insanely rich and interesting world, especially in these days, where most movies that are made are remakes of what we've seen 20 years ago. And I'm like, okay, why are you remaking The Witches? Why?
I'm so happy too that, like, with the series that they came out with, because you could easily just go, okay, the Dark Crystal came out like what, 40 years ago or whatever, and you could easily say like, okay, that was really cool, we love this, but let's do it, let's make it like realistic, like, you know, with totally just, you know, real looking creatures and all this stuff, But the fact that they really went back to what made that so special, just was so refreshing and exciting. Because I remember hearing there was going to be a remake of The Dark Crystal, and I was like, no, don't do that. Don't remake that. I was so, and then like even when you and I talked about it briefly, I think you told me that it's going to be like puppets and all this kind of stuff. But the fact that they ended up going that way was just, and I was confused at first that they were doing like a really long 10-episode series of the movie. Like that's what I thought at first, that it was going to be like, how are they stretching that movie into 10 parts? Like, that's crazy. So it was overall, it was just really awesome that they just took it to the place they did while keeping the integrity, and of what made it so special. They really did a banging job on it. It's really just the artistry that's into that. And that must have put a little fire under your butt a little bit too, when you get working on this project, because no one's really thought about the Dark Crystal, as far for like years, and now all of a sudden there's a series, and now all of a sudden there's this awesome book that you got to illustrate. So what did you feel a little bit of that as well? Like, wow, like, gotta get this, like, leave it up to me, because I know we've talked about it already, that there's like a pressure that you felt, but like just the fact that kind of the eyes are on that now, like people, it's kind of a new generation is into it,
I personally, I don't know how Adam feels about this, but I personally, I really didn't think too much about it, because if you let that take over, it's going to cripple you, and you'll just, I wouldn't be able to put another line on the paper, because I would be just too worried about everything. And yeah, sure, there were moments that I felt like, I'm not good enough. Like I said, but honestly, I was doing this. I think I tried to do this for to enjoy, to be able to go into Thra, to go on holiday in Thra for almost. And yeah, like I said, to be honest, the moment Wendy and Brian said, "You did well, this is exactly what we wanted the book to be."
Yeah.
That was for me. Reddit, Subfora, whatever. I'm not even going into Reddit. I don't. Nope.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
There's gonna be people that have opinions about it and will say that I drew that Skeksis the wrong way, or that the wrong way. That's fine by me. But I still hear, and I still have that email from Brian and Wendy. I've got it printed out and in front of me. I ain't listening.
That's fine.
You've got the forward at the very beginning of the book is a letter from them endorsing you. So it's like, proof. Reddit has nothing on you. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's definitely there's more eyes on the book now than there would have been without the Age of Resistance. So there's definitely, and I think it's a good thing, because I think because of Age of Resistance, a lot of more people are introduced to the world of Thra and to the beauty that is Dark Crystal, and the beauty of storytelling, because that's one of the best stories, or the movies that has the best storytelling from the first second till the last second. Mm-hmm. And no matter how old it is, it's still so strong. And I'm not a writer, but I think we can both agree that this is one of those gems that people really underestimate.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, in a way, it's kind of like the setup for you to, it's like the pitch to you, like, the show, because it's gonna. I mean, my kids have grown up watching it because, I love it. But like, there's a lot of people that, probably weren't as familiar, and then this comes out, and then, I just, it's hard for me to imagine never seeing it. And then, all of a sudden this new thing comes out. What's that? Whoa, you know, I mean, but I'm sure there are people who think, well, this is amazing. This is like this crazy, awesome new show. And it's like, no, wait, no, this goes way back, you know? But it's so cool to be able to have this opportunity to like work on the project that way. It's just, that's so cool. I'm so excited for you. Is there a possibility or a chance that we might see some of these new creatures in a new feature someday? Do we know anything about this?
We don't know.
We don't know, but there's a possibility.
Sadly,
probably.
There's no going to be a second season of Age of Resistance
for now. For now,
no.
okay.
For now.
Oh, we can hope. We can hope.
I mean, I do believe it's their most expensive show that Netflix has ever done. I think I've heard figures of 16 million per episode. So that's a lot of money. And I'm very sad that there's not going to be a second season just yet, or maybe, or whatever. But I mean, we have a movie, we have comics, we have books, we have this amazing series. There's so much to discover, and it's a gift. Yeah.
And speaking of comics, real quick, what's that like been as far as? Is it just branches off from the story that's already existing? Like, is there callbacks to certain things, or is it whole new adventures and stuff with the characters?
It's a little bit of both, actually, because what Boom Studios did is they did a tie-in to the show that takes characters from the show, but it's their prequel. So the show itself is a prequel to the movie, and then the comics are a prequel to the show. But what's nice about it is that there are 3 different stories. I wrote one 4-issue story that's like a complete 100-page, along with artist French Caramingo. And I was working from outlines and stories from the showrunners, from the people who created the show. And not only that, I was getting, as I was sending in my scripts, I was getting notes from them, and they were like, oh, we love the idea that you call like a measure of, because I get really into language where it's like, they don't have the metric system. They don't have miles or meters or feet or anything. So they would have wheels is what I use for a mile. And they're like, they asked, the showrunners asked me like, where did you get wheels? I was like, I just figured it would be a unit of measure that wouldn't be miles or meters. And they're like, okay, can we use that in the show if there's more of the show? And I was like, go for it. Like, it's, you're the guys. So it was like that kind of relationship where it was back and forth and informing the show, but I was telling my own little, like, there's a character in here. This is the Ballad of Hupp and Barfinius is going to be the name of the graphic novel that comes out in a couple weeks. But there's a Hupp who's the character we know from the show. And why does he want to be a paladin? Why is he a podling that wants to be a knight, basically? And it's because he meets this guy in his past that's this basically a con artist. And I basically did like a paper moon, or like like a con artist, a kind of heist comedy with these Dark Crystal characters, because I felt that Thra was big enough and tonally wild enough that you could do stories like that. And they were very happy with my approach and with the story itself and with the scripts. So yeah, it's a little bit everything. Like, if you like the show, you're really going to get a little bonus out of it because you'll see why Hupp does certain things in the show. I tried to, flesh out and justify in his origin story, but it's a cute little, you can sit down with your kids and read I write like, slashers and blood and guts stuff. Like, so I don't have a lot of things that people can read with their kids. And my parents are just so happy now that they're like, oh, we're going to buy like 10 versions of the graphic novel so we can give this to people that have kids like that they know. And they're like, this is actually what Adam's doing.
Our son is not a total psycho. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's completely age appropriate. And
that's great.
Yeah, so it was nice to tell a story like that. And just to get to work in this world. So
that's so cool. Well, hey guys, I want to thank you both so much for doing this. This has been so cool just to hear, a little bit behind the scenes of this. And obviously you guys put a lot into it. There's a lot of passion, and I cannot wait to see this. And where can everybody get this book? So that where can I get this book?
it should be everywhere. I don't really know yet because I haven't seen it on store shelves, but it should be in every bookstore. But we'll I know both Iris and I on our pages and stuff, we have links to our to the Amazon and stuff like that, and we'll send you those if you want to put them in the video description.
Yeah.
Like that. There's Barnes and Noble. There's everywhere books are sold. I think you'll be able to get this. So yeah, we really, I'm speaking for Iris here, but I think we really appreciate if you check out Iris's incredible work.
Oh yeah, everyone for sure. And is there anything that either of you would like to promote real quick besides like where's your Instagram and all that kind of stuff so people can follow you?
Well, first off, I do have a new book coming up, or a new old book. Fairies of the Fault Lines is going to be reprinted officially and distributed in America, UK, everywhere. And that's coming June 21st of next year. So that's going to be awesome with new art. And then people can find me on Instagram and Patreon and Twitter and Facebook and just bug me. And I've got a wonderful fairy workout course on schoolism as well.
That's right.
We're teacher colleagues there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that's a really cool thing too. I've been seeing Bobby doing his workouts.
Yep.
Which looked really amazing. So yeah, everyone check out her classes at Schoolism as well. It's really cool. If that's all that's going on, I again thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and it was really nice to meet you, Adam. Nice to talk with you again, Iris. So for everyone out there in COVID world, good luck. No, just kidding. Hey everybody, keep safe, and if you're an artist out there, keep being creative, push yourself, encourage each other, your friends, everything, and everyone keep creating. And thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk next week. So thanks again, and we'll see you soon.
You want answers? Truth.